Bill Musgrave, quarterbacks coach for the Browns, NFL veteran, and usually a pretty buttoned-up kind of guy, just took a verbal sledgehammer to the organization's handling of Shedeur Sanders. And let me tell you, it wasn't subtle. It wasn't diplomatic. It wasn't polished. It was raw, honest, and it confirmed every fan's worst fear. Shedeur Sanders isn't being developed, he's being hidden. Let's get straight to the quote that blew the lid off this entire situation.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
He's not getting real reps. It's mostly theater. Theater. That's not just criticism. That's a condemnation of the entire quarterback development process in Cleveland. This isn't just a case of a rookie waiting his turn. This is a franchise putting a young quarterback on display like a stage prop, while making sure he never gets near the real action. If you're a Shedeur fan, that should infuriate you. If you're a Browns fan, it should terrify you. Because what Musgrave is describing isn't just a questionable coaching decision. It's a full-blown organizational failure. Let's unpack this. We've been told repeatedly that Sanders is competing, that reps are being shared, that this is an open quarterback room. But the truth? The actual truth? Shedeur's getting glorified scout team duties while guys with half his arm talent and none of his poise are getting red zone reps in game prep sessions. It's all smoke, all mirrors, all damage control. And now that Musgrave's ripped the curtain down, we can see the ugly mechanics behind the scenes. The Browns aren't preparing Shedeur to play. They're preparing him to not play, to be quiet, to be patient, to be ornamental. Because in Cleveland, development is apparently less about football and more about optics. And that's the word you'll hear again and again in this saga. Optics. Not development. Not competition. Not growth. Optics. They love the idea of having Shedeur on the roster. It plays well. It sells jerseys. It keeps the Deion Sanders media buzz in the headlines. It tells fans, hey, we've got a plan. We're building for the future. But the moment you look past the marketing and into the practice field, that plan falls apart like wet cardboard. And now Musgraves basically said the quiet part out loud. There was never a plan. Not a real one. Not one that includes Shedeur actually taking the field, leading drives, or getting molded into a future starter. He's there as a name, a symbol, a chess piece, but not a quarterback. Let's talk about how deeply broken that is. You don't draft a kid like Shedeur Sanders if you don't intend to develop him. You don't bring that level of talent, that level of upside, into your facility and stick him in fake game scenarios while guys with less future value get all the real coaching. And if you do, if that's your strategy, you deserve every loss you're about to take. Because this isn't just a wasted rookie year. It's a missed opportunity, a chance to do what great teams do, build something bold, shape the next era, take a risk, lay a foundation. Instead, Cleveland chose to make Shedeur a mascot. And here's the part that's truly maddening. It's intentional. This isn't a case of we forgot to give him snaps. This is by design. The staff is splitting reps in public, saying one thing in interviews and doing something completely different on the field. Musgrave even called the practice scenarios artificial, and that word is doing a lot of heavy lifting. It means these sessions aren't for improvement. They're not based on evaluation. They're being staged, curated, controlled. What? Because giving Shedeur real reps would create a real quarterback controversy. It would force coaches to acknowledge he's ahead of schedule. It would put pressure on the front office to admit that maybe, just maybe, they've been backing the wrong guys. And in Cleveland, admitting that kind of mistake is rarer than a sunny day in November. So instead they isolate Shedeur. They keep him in the shadows. They give him reps that don't matter. Not because he's not talented, but because they're scared of what happens if he proves it. Because if he starts dominating second-string defenses in practice, if teammates start talking, if clips start leaking, then suddenly the myth they've been selling, the myth that he needs more time, that he's not quite ready, goes up in smoke. And they can't have that. They'd rather control the narrative than unleash the quarterback. But here's the thing, that control is slipping. Fans see it. Every time the offense sputters. Every time another QB puts up mediocre tape. Every time Shedeur's name trends on social media, not for what he's doing but for what he's not allowed to do. And you better believe the locker room sees it too. NFL players know talent when they see it. You think the wide receivers don't talk about who throws the best ball in practice? You think the defense doesn't notice when Shedeur's carving them up in walkthroughs? There's a reason the hashtag is #FreeShedeur. Because that's what it feels like now, a prison sentence. And when your own quarterback coach starts airing out the organization, yeah, the walls are cracking. Let's not forget the outside interest. Because everyone else in the league is watching this slow-motion disaster and thinking the same thing. If Cleveland won't use him, we will. You've got GMs on the phone, scouts watching footage, coaches quietly saying, imagine what we could do with a guy like that. Shedeur is valuable. Not just because of his name or his brand or his jersey sales, but because he can play. And if you give him the structure, the reps, the room to grow, he could become the kind of quarterback you build a team around. But not in Cleveland. Not like this. And you know who else is watching? Dion. Because if you think Coach Prime is just sitting back and trusting the process, you haven't been paying attention. He's seen this game before. He knows what mishandling looks like. And if this starts to look like sabotage, he'll speak. Loudly. Publicly. And it will shift everything. This isn't just about Shedeur's future anymore. It's about the Browns' credibility. And it's hanging by a thread. So what happens next? If Cleveland's smart, which is still up for debate, they hit the brakes immediately. They stop playing theater. They start giving Shedeur meaningful reps. Real snaps. Real reads. They build a package. A plan. A path. Because if they don't, he's gone. Either he gets traded or he walks as soon as he's able. And when he does, the narrative flips. Instantly. The story won't be about a struggling rookie. It'll be about the quarterback the Browns had and lost. The guy who went to another team, got developed properly, and made everyone in Cleveland look like fools. So the Browns have a choice. Keep playing games. Or start playing football. Because Shedeur Sanders? He's ready. It's the Browns who aren't. So now it's your turn. Drop your take in the comments. Is this organizational sabotage? Is Musgrave telling us something deeper? And if Shedeur is traded, where should he go? And if you're here for more football drama, quarterback chaos, and truth bombs from inside the locker room, hit that subscribe. Because this story is just heating up. Bill Musgrave opened his mouth for maybe 5 minutes, and in that short span of time he confirmed what fans, analysts, and half of the AFC North had already been whispering. The Browns are actively wasting Shedeur Sanders. Not by accident. Not by oversight. But by choice. And that choice, that's about to cost them everything. Now listen, when a quarterback coach speaks publicly, it's almost never this raw. Most of the time it's all coach speak. We like what we're seeing. He's developing well. He's got a great attitude. You know the drill. But what Musgrave gave us, that wasn't spin. That was a confession. A leak in plain sight. A subtle but undeniable middle finger to the way things are being run. Because when he called practice theater, that was more than just a spicy soundbite. That was a takedown. Let's talk about that word for a second. Theater. That's not a coach saying things are a bit unstructured. That's a man inside the operation telling the world, this isn't real. The quarterback competition? The development plan? Imaginary. The idea that Shedeur Sanders has a shot in Cleveland? A scripted lie performed 5 days a week for the benefit of the press and public. Musgrave just pulled the curtain back and showed us the stagehands. So now we have to ask the question that everyone in Cleveland's front office is hoping we don't ask. Why? Why keep Shedeur on the bench, hidden away, locked in scout team drills and meaningless situational walkthroughs? Why bring in a quarterback with talent, legacy, poise, confidence, star power, and then refuse to develop him? Why even draft him at all? And the answer? Control. This isn't about readiness. This isn't about experience. This isn't about reps. This is about a franchise that has never known what to do with quarterbacks who don't fit their mold. It's about a front office terrified of being outshined by a 21-year-old rookie who talks like a leader and plays like a threat. Because if Shedeur goes out there and balls, and you know he can, it makes everyone above him look bad. It means the narrative changes. It means they have to admit they had the answer all along but didn't want to see it. And that's the kind of thing that gets jobs lost. So instead of facing that heat, they built him a glass cage. Called it a development track. Handed him a clipboard and a headset and pretended like he was part of the plan. Meanwhile, he's throwing bombs and shell drills and getting told to run scout cards. Imagine being Shedeur Sanders. You've spent your whole life under scrutiny, learning the game from one of the greatest minds football has ever seen. You dominate in college. You outwork veterans in camp. You have the locker room's attention. Fans are wearing your name. And you're still not allowed to take a single meaningful snap? That's not football. That's politics. And now the mask is off. Musgrave didn't just crack the door, he kicked it open. And now everything's pouring out. The inconsistencies. The contradictions. The cracks in the Browns' so-called quarterback room. Remember the statements they made early in preseason? "We're giving all our QBs equal reps." No, you weren't. "We believe in Shedeur's long-term potential." No, you don't. "We're just being patient." No, you're being calculated. You're trying to hold on to control of the narrative for as long as you can. You're hoping that by the time people realize you wasted this kid's rookie season, you'll be able to shift the blame somewhere else. But guess what? That clock just hit zero. Now the entire league knows what's happening. And more importantly, so does Shedeur. Do you honestly think he's going to sit around for another year of this? Another season of meaningless reps while people with half his ceiling get starter treatment? Come on. He's already watching the phones light up. He knows teams are interested. He knows value when he sees it. And right now, the only people who don't seem to understand what he brings to the table are the people who should be building the damn table. And then there's the Deion factor. Let's not be naive, Deion Sanders is a force. He's a motivator, a leader, and a chess player. You think he hasn't already mapped out 5 alternate routes for his son's future? You think he's going to let his kid rot in a system designed to stall him? Absolutely not. If things don't change fast, Deion will move mountains to make sure Shedeur gets out of Cleveland. He'll pull strings. He'll pressure agents. He'll leverage public opinion. And he'll do it without breaking a sweat. Because for Deion, this isn't just business. This is personal. And here's what's wild. He doesn't even have to say anything. The fans are already speaking for him. Hashtag Free Shedeur isn't just a hashtag anymore. It's a movement. People are fed up. The frustration is boiling. Every week that Shedeur doesn't touch the field, the support for him gets louder, more aggressive, more undeniable. The Browns are losing control of the narrative, and once the fans flip, good luck getting them back. You think Cleveland fans are just going to forget if Shedeur walks and becomes a star somewhere else? That's going to live rent-free in their heads forever. That's how quarterback ghosts are made. That's how franchises fall into decade-long tailspins. And the Browns should know, they've been there before. But now they're on the edge again and the clock's ticking. Because here's the scenario that keeps popping up. Shedeur gets traded. Maybe to the Falcons. Maybe to the Raiders. Maybe to Cincinnati if that chaos continues. He starts. He shines. He wins. And Cleveland? They're back at square one. Wondering how they let a kid with that much composure, vision, accuracy, and leadership walk because they were afraid of what it would mean to admit they were wrong. You don't come back from that. Not easily. And you can forget landing future top quarterback talent if that happens. The second the league views you as a place where talent dies quietly, you become a last resort. You become a place players hope not to get drafted. You become exactly what the Browns were for decades. Musgrave's words were more than honest. They were damning. And now the Browns are in damage control mode. Do they issue a statement? Try to walk it back? Blame the media for taking things out of context? It won't work. The fans already saw it. The players already know it. And Shedeur? He's done waiting. So here's the real question. Do the Browns want to be the team that finds a way to course correct, right now, and give Shedeur the reps, the system, the support he needs to grow? Or are they going to let ego sink them? Are they going to cling to their outdated process, while the future of their franchise walks out the door and into someone else's huddle? The opportunity is still there. But it's shrinking. Fast. So what's it going to be, Cleveland? Because Shedeur's silence has been professional, respectful, patient. But that patience is officially running out. The kind of situation that defines eras. That splits fan bases. That gets people fired. And at the center of it all is Shedeur Sanders, arguably the most watched, least played quarterback in the NFL. A guy who has everything but a fair shot. And thanks to Bill Musgrave, we finally have proof that it's not just bad luck, or rookie politics, or waiting his turn. It's structural. It's intentional. It's betrayal. And if you're still not convinced that something is deeply broken inside that Browns facility, let's break it all the way down. Musgrave didn't have to say what he said. In fact, in today's media-obsessed league, coaches go out of their way not to say anything real. They dance around every question. They talk in circles. They use vague platitudes and phrases like high football character, and developing nicely, and trusting the process. But Musgrave? He cracked. He told the truth. And the truth broke the facade. He's not getting meaningful reps. It's mostly theater. Read that again. Slowly. Feel the weight of it. This is a man who spends hours every week inside team meetings, quarterback rooms, film sessions, and he's saying the team is putting on a performance. And the leading actor? Shedeur Sanders. But instead of being given a script that elevates him, that prepares him for the real show, he's being dressed up, paraded out, and told to smile. Meanwhile, his peers are getting actual coaching, actual reps, actual game plans. And the people upstairs? They're sitting on their hands pretending not to hear the boos. Let's not pretend this is normal. There's a difference between a rookie sitting for a season and a rookie being systematically iced out. They could have rotated him into preseason snaps. They could have let him run with the twos. They could have designed specific drills for him, tailored red zone packages, even just handed him a few series when the game was out of reach. But they didn't. They chose not to. What? Because they're afraid of what happens next. Let's talk about that fear. Because that's what this really comes down to, fear of being wrong. The Browns have hitched their wagon to the safe options. The guys who do what they're told. The ones who fit the system, check the boxes, and don't challenge the hierarchy. But Shedeur? He's not there to blend in. He's there to break the mold. He comes from a legacy of greatness. He's used to being doubted, but he's never been content with silence. He's never been okay with just sitting back and waiting his turn. He wants the ball. He wants the pressure. He wants the moment. And what does Cleveland do with that mindset? They shrink from it. They label it immaturity. They whisper about ego. They reduce it to flash and ignore the substance, his accuracy, his pocket presence, his football IQ, his grit. It's not that Shedeur isn't ready. It's that they aren't ready for him. They aren't ready for the conversations that come with starting him. They aren't ready to admit that the guy they were hyping as the future maybe isn't. They aren't ready to face the storm that comes from elevating the player who brings the most heat. But here's the thing about storms, you can't stop them. You can either prepare or you can get washed away. And right now, Cleveland? They're ankle-deep in denial, trying to hold back a hurricane. The fans see it. The media sees it. The locker room sees it. And if you think that's not creating fractures within the team, you're dreaming. Because players talk. They know who's outperforming who. They feel the energy in drills. They watch how reps are divided, who gets real coaching and who gets just run the card. You think that doesn't weigh on a team? It does. And it creates resentment. Especially when the guy being iced out is the one with the most natural leadership traits in the room. Let's take it a step further. You want to know what this situation really reminds me of? It's not just another rookie mishandled by a stubborn coaching staff. It's Cap in San Francisco. Russ in Seattle. Rodgers behind Favre. It's the classic playbook. Young quarterback shows potential, starts building momentum, and suddenly the establishment gets nervous. Because it's one thing to develop a guy. It's another thing to realize you've been developing the wrong one. And once the pressure builds, once the media starts asking questions, once the fans start chanting names that aren't your starter, it's over. So what do teams do? They try to get ahead of the fall. They control the narrative. They pull the strings. They claim he's not ready, or needs more time, or isn't grasping the playbook. And just like that, they bury him in manufactured doubt. But guess what? That tactic doesn't work anymore. Not in the social media era. Not with a last name like Sanders. Not with a fan base that's wide awake. We've got eyes. We've got context. And now, thanks to Musgrave, we've got confirmation. There's no hiding anymore. So what's the next move? Well, Cleveland has two options. Option 1. They wake up. They stop the nonsense. They give Shedeur meaningful reps. They stop pretending the depth chart is set in stone and start treating quarterback development like a priority, not a marketing stunt. They start shaping the future instead of stalling it. Option 2. They double down on the lie. They continue the theater. They let Shedeur rot behind clipboard QBs until he asks for a trade, and when he does, they try to control that narrative too. Spoiler alert. If they choose option 2, they're going to regret it. Because the moment Shedeur gets out, gets real coaching, gets real snaps, gets real support, he's going to explode. And the Browns? They'll be left explaining how they had lightning in a bottle and let it evaporate. So, let's wrap this up with a little reality check for Cleveland. You're not just managing a roster anymore. You're managing a movement. Shedeur Sanders isn't just another rookie. He's the story. And you're either going to be the franchise that believed in him, or the one that tried to keep him quiet and paid the price. Your choice. So let's hear it. Should Shedeur be traded? Should he start now? Are we watching a sabotage in real time? Drop your comments below. Hit that subscribe if you're here for the unfiltered truth and want every twist in this quarterback soap opera as it happens. Because Shedeur isn't going away. And this story? It's not done. It's just getting dangerous. That's the million-dollar question sitting on every GM's desk and echoing through every Browns fans group chat right now. Because this isn't just a quarterback dilemma anymore, it's a full-on identity crisis. And Shedeur Sanders is the pressure point. You can feel the tension in the air. Every interview, every press conference, every snap in practice, it's all under the microscope now. The fans have caught on. The media's watching. The locker room is talking. And Cleveland's front office? They're sweating. And why wouldn't they be? They built a house of mirrors and invited everyone in, but forgot that mirrors crack under pressure. The Browns told us this was a fair quarterback competition. They told us development was the priority. They told us every player would get a shot. But what Musgrave revealed? That wasn't a coaching update. That was a red flag. Shedeur hasn't just been sidelined, he's been staged, scripted, used as a prop in an illusion of progress. And while that may have worked a few years ago, the league's different now. The audience is different now. We know what suppressed talent looks like. We've seen it before. And we're seeing it again right in front of us. Here's what the Browns don't seem to understand. Shedeur Sanders isn't the distraction, they are. Their fear of upsetting the status quo, of admitting they've made the wrong calls, of dealing with the reality that the best quarterback on the roster might be the one they won't even put on the field? That's the distraction. That's the dysfunction. That's the real scandal. Because eventually the noise becomes too loud to ignore. Eventually you can't keep a Ferrari parked in the garage while the rest of your offense is running on fumes. Eventually Shedeur is going to force the issue. Whether that happens in Cleveland or somewhere else, that's up to the Browns. But here's the truth they can't run from. You can't silence star power. You can only delay it. And when it finally hits the field, it won't be quiet. So what's it going to be, Cleveland? Are you going to evolve or evaporate? Your move. But make it fast. Because if Shedeur walks, he's not just taking his talents with him. He's taking your future too.